now let's go specifically to a few race options. And for that, I'm going to bring up my lovely wife, Jen Rhines, who's a member of the B.A.A. team, 3-time Olympian. She's made the Olympic team in the marathon, the 10K, and the 5K. So she can tell you about any event with equal authority, but with this one, we'll use her 10K report.
Okay, it looks like we don't have that many marathoners out there, but some of you have probably run some longer races, done some longer training this winter, and now you're going to kind of switch mentality going into the 10K. Because when I talk about warming up for the marathon, I usually tell people, you know, do a little warm up, but don't get too amped up. You're going to be out there a long time, you can work into it. For the 10K, you know, you're dropping down to only 6.2 miles, so you do want to be a little more physically warmed up and ready to go. And mentally, realizing that some of you won't, you know, right when the gun goes off, it's still going to take a little time to get to the starting line. You want to be mentally ready to go when you hit that line and ready to concentrate. And I don't mean, you know, so intense that you go out too hard, but just ready to focus for that 6.2 miles. And what I'm going to talk about is 2 different scenarios here to run your best race. The first would be racing in ideal conditions. And this would be similar to this year's B.A.A. 5K, where we had temperatures maybe in the 40s and 50s, maybe up to 60, no wind, no humidity, you know, really perfect conditions. And I was lucky enough to run the Tufts 10K a few years ago in those conditions and run my personal best time. And when you're racing for a time goal, you want to run as close to possible even splits and kind of avoid that desire to go out too fast. And that's when I ran at the Tufts 10K. It kind of starts with a downhill first mile. I was able to kind of hold myself back a little bit and run almost steady the whole way through. So that's kind of what you're aiming for in ideal conditions when you're focusing a little more on time. And when I've run those type of races, either on the track or on the roads that are my best times, usually you kind of feel you're running hard the whole way, but the first 3 or 4 miles go by fairly fast, and then around mile 4 to 4.5, it's, at least for me, it starts to feel a lot tougher. So I like to kind of break the course up to have landmarks to think about, to get you, once you start like hitting that fatigue level, so you can break it down and push yourself through the rest of the race and achieve that goal that you're shooting for. So on the B.A.A. course, it runs just slightly uphill from 2 to 3, and then a little quicker from 3 to 4. So you can kind of get through the first half of the race through 5K, and then use that slight downhill from 3 to 4 to give yourself a little boost and either stay on pace or get back on pace. And then I've kind of broken it down the way that I would look at it. Once you hit the 4-mile mark, you could focus on getting from BU to Kenmore Square. And then once you're kind of in Kenmore Square, kind of work from Kenmore Square to the 5-mile mark, which is around Com Ave before Hereford. And then Hereford to the Public Garden. And for me, that was, in the Tufts course, that was a tough stretch because there was a lot of moves going on in the race. And I usually have a good kick, so that's the part of the race where people who don't have the kick are making their moves and pushing hard, so I kind of have to weather that until I get closer to the finish. So for me, that was, you know, that's kind of a tough stretch, and it may be for you as well, but you kind of just have to weather that until once you see the Public Garden, then it's like, great, I only have around 600 meters to go. And I even will kind of think about, for me, that's going to be around 2 minutes. You know, for you, it could be 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, but whatever it is, you can really dial in, like how hard can I push myself for the amount of time that I have left in the race. And our second scenario is going to be when we have more difficult conditions. This could be temperatures reaching the mid-70s and warmer, high humidity, headwinds. You know, we all know the river of Boston can be very windy. On these days, you want to start conservative and save energy for the second half. Really go by effort rather than pace. So this isn't the day that you go after that time that maybe you've been training for, or you really think you're ready to achieve. You have to go by effort. I was able to adapt really well to this back in February. I've been training up here in Boston all winter, and I went down to Tampa to run a half marathon, and it was like 100% humidity. And I was like, whoa. You know, I've been training to shooting for 5:30 to 5:35 pace. The gun went off. I just like let that go. I got in the pack where I thought I should be. And you know, our first mile was 5:30, but then we slowed down to 5:45 and 5:40. And I was like, you know, I feel okay, and I'm right in this pack where I want to be. I'm not going to worry about the time because my goal was top 3, and I'm like, this is achievable for where I am right now. And I noticed every mile the women I was running with would look at their watches and get flustered and start breathing harder. So that's what I started to feed off of that because I was like, well, I'm feeling good. I guess my confidence was growing that I was going to be able to kind of win the race in that pack. So, you know, on those days, you really just want to go by effort and not let it get you flustered that you're not able to hit that, you know, perfect time that you've been training for. And as Terrence mentioned, hydration is really important. You want to drink water or dump it over your head to keep your core temperature down from rising too high. And also taking in a carb or electrolyte drink during the race to keep your blood sugar in check and avoid muscle cramps. And those are things that, to be honest, I come from a track background, and unless I'm running a marathon, I'm kind of lazy. I don't want to go out of my way to grab the water or the sports drink, but that was an adaptation that I do make when the conditions are tough, and I did that down in Tampa. I said to myself, you're going to go get that drink and dump it over your head, which I don't like feeling all wet and squishy while I'm racing, but it was, you know, just realizing that it really is that important. It's going to keep you cool, keep you hydrated, and allow you to run your best race on that day. And you definitely, in tough conditions, want to listen to your body. Pay attention to the signals of what's too hard or what feels just right. Don't let the pace clock dictate how hard or how fast you're running. And I ran a race down in Puerto Rico a few years ago. I've been training up in the mountains and at altitude, so zero humidity. I'm normally a good heat runner, so I said I'm going to be fine down in Puerto Rico. And we ran in the evening, and it was still over 90 degrees, and the gun goes off, and I ran a pretty quick first mile, but I'm looking 100 meters ahead, and the pack I wanted to be with was 100 meters in front of me. But I've never felt that warm that early in a race. Like, my face felt like it was on fire, my head was hot, so my mind, you know, and my competitive drive was telling me, you want to be in that pack, you need to pick it up. You know, you don't feel that bad, you can get up with that pack. I didn't do it. I knew, you know, if I was that warm a mile in, there's no way I could push harder. If anything, I needed to take it back a notch. And I also did the logical thing. I kind of did the math, like, I'm still running pretty quick. If they're 100 meters ahead of me, they're not all going to maintain that pace. You know, so I even slowed down a little bit, ran even the rest of the race. I placed in the top 10s and had a solid race. It wasn't the, you know, the best race I'd ever run, but it was definitely the best I could do that day. And it really helped me just, you know, listening to the feedback my body was giving me. And also focusing on starting conservative and getting faster throughout the race on these tough days. It always feels much better to be passing people the second half of the race than to be the one being passed. You want to focus on the course and not the clock. Racing on days like these are more about your finishing place than the time. You know, being a good racer, it's about managing the conditions, the course, and your emotions. And I feel, for myself, I ran the Falmouth Road Race, it's been a while now, but way back, and it was a very hot morning, difficult conditions. I went out, ran an even pace, kind of thinking in my mind, saving a little bit for the second half. And going into the race, I thought, I think if I run really well, I can come in third. So by midway, I moved up to third and kind of had that, you know, third place nailed down as long as I ran steady. And a mile later, a woman who was in front of me, who was an Olympic medalist, stepped off the course. I think she was injured, shouldn't have started, so she stepped off. So I was like, wow, now I'm in second. You know, this is great. I kept going, hit the 10K mark, and even acknowledged that my 10K time, I was like, wow, I'm only running a little quicker than I did 4 years ago, and I'm in way better shape, just showing like how difficult the conditions were. So I thought, well, I'm first American, I'm second, this is great, you know, pushing through to the finish line. And coming down to the finish, the crowd was really excited, and I was kind of just thinking, well, I'm on the Cape, people are patriotic, I guess they're really excited, cheering for the first American. It was much appreciated by myself. And I crossed the finish line and realized I had won the race. The woman who I thought was winning actually also stepped off the course, kind of at the top of the hill there, and I couldn't see her because I was, still a little bit behind and had no idea that I was winning the race. So for me, just managing the heat that day and maximizing what I could do, and basically benefiting from someone else not doing that, got me the win at the Falmouth Road Race, which for me to win that prestigious race, it was huge for me. So that's any race you step on the line in great conditions, difficult conditions, you just want to maximize what you can do on the day. And sometimes it's a fast time, and other days it's just getting the most out of your competitive effort that's possible.
All right, folks, once again, I want to thank everybody for coming out here tonight. Again, our next clinic will be on race weekend, Friday, June 20th. If you have an RSVP, just send us an email to train@ba.org. Good luck with your training. Good luck with the race, folks.